Gee, I wonder what's running inside the workshop. This thing's been running all night. I made it in one day yesterday. This is something I haven't done in a long time. I came out here in the morning and I spent the entire day. I didn't even take a break for lunch, which is unusual for me these days. And I built the whole thing. Kind of rough, just more or less to test it out. I was curious to see how much of an issue tracking would be, mainly for these small wheels up here. Now, I could only scrape up 7 of these. My original idea is to make wheels, and that's what I will eventually do if I decide to make this kind of a bandsaw. I would make 3-inch. These are about 3-inch right now. I think they may be a little bit bigger than they need to be, so I think it would go somewhere around 2-inch. I've got 2-inch wheels on my belt grinder, and they're holding up well, so I don't see a problem here. And there would be a lot more of them, so there would be, there would be pretty much just like a 1/16 of an inch between the wheels as they go around this arch. Okay, we come around the back here and look at the guts of it. And the motor is actually pretty warm. Like I say, the thing was running all night. I wanted to test it. There's not a huge amount of tension on the blade, but there's a fair bit. I wanted to make it a fair test. Everything was very quickly made up. As you can see, here's the tracking. And that moves the drive wheel in and out. That wouldn't be the case on the final build, but it's the case here now because I really don't have any other adjustment other than this upper wheel up here, which I can move in and out slightly. I've got a 2-inch pulley in here and a 5-inch pulley on the drive wheel, and that's running the blade at around 2,200 feet per minute, which is lower speed than would be ideal for a bandsaw. Bandsaw would be around 2,500 to 3,000. I think my big one runs around 2,500 actually. To adjust the blade tension, all I need to do is turn this threaded rod, which is threaded through this block of wood, and pushes down on this so it forces the wheel that way and puts tension on the blade. After I leave the shop today, I may turn it on again for another few hours to see if anything else develops, but I doubt it will. Like I say, I was running all night. I came out around 12 o'clock last night, and actually I was surprised to see that the blade was still on there and running fine. This is not actually a blade. This is the offcut from the blade that I split in half. So there aren't any teeth here that could hack me to pieces if it came off. So if you want more of the details on how I did this, I wrote up a website article and you can go and check that out. A couple other things before I go. Day before yesterday, I changed the blade guides on my saw, and I wrote an article about that. You can go check that out. There'll be a link in the description. It goes into all the details on how I did it. The major change, of course, is I cut the steel part off and I used wood to make the holder part. What I use for the guide blocks themselves are just pieces of 3/4 inch angle cut to length and then cut this way so they won't stick out too far. And they work well. I'm sure that they will wear eventually, but I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. I got a comment on the article asking if heat buildup was an issue for these, and no, that's never a problem with this. Part of it is how long you normally use a saw. You're not standing here for hours on end making a cut. Usually you make a cut and it lasts maximum, 3 or 4 minutes. Me anyway, that's all I use. So I cut small parts run it through, turn the machine off, could be sitting here idle for hours on end before I use it again. It's going to open up this part right here and look inside, and you can see I did the same thing with the lower blade guide. Just blow the dust off, except I oriented them this way. I just cut the top plate off the old holder and put these directly on the bottom plate. The thrust bearing underneath is still in the same orientation. I never changed that at all. I want to keep this video as short as I possibly could, but before I go, I want to touch on my wooden table saw fence. The number one question that I get from people about it, you know, it being made out of wood, is how much deflection does it have when you push it this way? All fences like this have deflection that way because they don't lock to the back rail. They only lock to the front. Now, obviously, wood is not as strong as steel, but I'm not seeing any significant amount of deflection here when I push on that harder than I would push on it when I'm pushing the stock through. Also, people push back here, and obviously it moves more here, but the real place where pressure is being applied is here at the front of the blade. That's the most you'd be pushing on it right there, and I can really push here with a single finger and barely get it to move. So not an issue, not at all. And like I said, I'm completely happy with this one.